Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping right into a massive intellectual fight, a battle over the very idea of progress itself. Is this whole modern world we've built sitting on a solid foundation? Or is it, maybe, an incomplete or even a failed project? Let's get into it.
Just think about that for a second. What if all the big ideas that shaped our democracies, our science, our art, what if they were all fundamentally flawed from the start? That's the huge provocative question at the center of the debate we're unpacking today. It really challenges everything we think we know about how to move forward as a society. So here's our game plan. We're going to meet the defender, then look at the original promise he's fighting for. We'll see how that vision got fractured and how reason itself ended up on trial. Then we'll check out the proposed way forward and, most importantly, talk about why it matters for all of us right now. All right, so the main character in our story is the German philosopher Jürgen Habermas. You can kind of think of him as a modern-day champion for those classic Enlightenment ideals, really pushing back against a huge wave of skepticism. Now, Habermas has spent his entire career defending the idea of liberal democracy. He was part of this super influential group called the Frankfurt School, but really his life's work has been all about trying to rescue and re-energize the Enlightenment's belief in reason, in justice, and in the idea that, yes, we can actually make things better. Okay, to really get what he's talking about, you need to know one of his most famous ideas, the public sphere. This is basically the space where we all talk, debate, and form opinions. Think about your social media feeds, the news you watch, even just community groups in your town. For Habermas, a healthy public sphere is literally the lifeblood of democracy, and it's all powered by our ability to reason with each other. So what is this project that Habermas is trying so hard to defend? Well, to understand that, we have to rewind and look at the original vision from the Enlightenment philosophers. You have to understand the goal here was massive. The Enlightenment thinkers believed that all this knowledge we were gaining, from science, from art, from philosophy, it wasn't just supposed to sit in a book. It was all meant to work together, to help us understand the world, understand ourselves, push us to be better people, and ultimately build a more just world for everyone. It was this beautiful, unified idea. But that grand, unified vision, it didn't last. A crack started to show up in the foundation of this whole project. And funnily enough, it started in the world of art. Right around the middle of the 1800s, things started to fall apart. These different fields of knowledge, science, morality, art, they all started drifting away from each other. They got super specialized, stuck in their own little bubbles, and they lost that connection to the bigger mission of human progress. Art, especially, started to turn inward. It became all about art for art's sake. It was more focused on its own rules, its own history. It was basically talking to itself. It wasn't really concerned with the big questions of truth or justice in the real world anymore. It just got disconnected. And this split, this fragmentation, it set the stage for an even bigger challenge. A new wave of thinkers came along, the post-structuralists, and they decided to put the entire idea of Enlightenment reason on trial. They looked at all those grand promises of progress and started asking some really tough questions. And this slide right here, this is the absolute heart of the conflict. For the Enlightenment tradition, reason was our best shot at freedom and justice. But its critics, they saw something totally different. They argued that reason isn't some pure, neutral thing. They saw it as a tool of power, one that has been used to push a specific, often Western worldview while calling everything else irrational. And yeah, they did not pull any punches. They saw the whole Enlightenment project not as something that frees people, but as a kind of sneaky form of control. To them, its claim to universal truth was a kind of terroristic reason that just silenced other cultures and other ways of thinking. A really powerful accusation. So, facing this incredibly fierce critique, what does Habermas do? Does he just throw in the towel and abandon the whole project? Not a chance. Instead, he comes up with a whole new way to think about what reason even is. And this is his big idea, communicative reason. He says, look, reason isn't some abstract thing floating in the clouds, and it's not just a weapon. Reason is something we create together. It's baked into the simple act of trying to understand each other when we talk. If you and I are trying to agree on something, and we're both giving our reasons, listening, and actually willing to be convinced by the better argument, well, that whole process is communicative reason. So based on that idea, he lays out a path for how we can fix that cultural fracture we were talking about. Step 1, art and culture need to stop being so self-obsessed.
Step 2, they have to start dealing with the big questions of truth and justice again. And finally, step 3, we need to bring these separate worlds, art, science, and morality, back together into one meaningful whole, just like the Enlightenment wanted in the first place.
I know. This can all seem like a really abstract philosophical argument, but Habermas insists that this stuff has huge consequences for our everyday lives and for society as a whole.
Because here's the real payoff. If we can actually achieve communicative reason, then that makes communicative action possible. That means we can move beyond just arguing and actually start working together to solve real problems, whether it's an issue in your local community or a massive global challenge. It's basically a blueprint for how we can make progress together.
And that kind of leaves us with one last pretty urgent question. In our world today, a world of social media echo chambers and deep political divisions, could Habermas be right? Is the key to our future not some grand new ideology, but something much simpler and yet way harder? Just the act of communicating, of reasoning together. The project of modernity might be incomplete, but maybe, just maybe, the tools we need to finish it are right there, in the conversations we choose to have.